She tried to sell my house behind my back. Then, broke in with her dad. My real-life nightmare. I'm 34 years old, and not long ago, I thought I had life pretty well figured out. I had a house I'd busted my butt to buy, a fiancée I was excited to build a future with, and plans for a wedding next summer. Everything felt like it was finally falling into place, until it all blew up. Let me back up a bit. About 5 years ago, I managed to buy my own place. Nothing fancy, 3 bedrooms, a decent backyard, and a little garage. But it was mine. I'd been saving since my mid-20s, pulling extra shifts, skipping vacations, eating way more ramen than any grown man should. When I finally got the keys, I just stood there in the empty living room and thought, I did this. Coming from not much, that moment meant everything. A few years later, I met Kelly, not her real name. We hit it off fast. She was funny, outgoing, lit up every room she walked into. Or at least that's how she came across in the beginning. After about a year, she moved into my house. Felt like the right move at the time. Now, she didn't help with the mortgage or anything like that, but we split stuff like groceries and bills. I didn't mind. I bought the house before we even met. It was mine, and I never expected her to pay towards something I already owned. Kelly's background was different from mine. Her family had always struggled with money. She'd tell me stories about her parents maxing out credit cards just to get by, always falling behind, but trying to keep their heads above water. I felt bad for them. Life ain't fair sometimes, right? But over time, I started noticing some things that just didn't sit right. Her mom would make these little comments like, "Wow, Kelly, you really hit the jackpot with a guy who owns a house." Her dad? He'd joke about how nice it'd be to retire without a mortgage. At the time, I brushed it off as harmless talk. Looking back now, those were red flags I should have taken a lot more seriously. The first real crack showed when Kelly started telling me her parents were in serious trouble. I mean, yeah, they'd always struggled, but now they were about to lose their house. Kelly was stressed about it, and I tried to be supportive. I told her maybe they could downsize, maybe talk to a financial advisor, stuff that made sense. But Kelly didn't want advice. She kept saying it wasn't fair, that her parents worked hard and deserved better. Then she started dropping these little hints. How nice it would be if we could help out. And by we, she obviously meant me. At first, I honestly thought she was joking. Like, why would I be the one footing the bill for her parents' bad money decisions? But the more she brought it up, the more I realized she wasn't joking at all. I tried to explain my side. I told her I worked hard for what I had. I wasn't born into money. I sacrificed a lot to get where I am. I wasn't about to hand it over just because her folks were in trouble. She got upset, said I didn't understand what it was like to grow up with nothing. That was the first moment where I started wondering if we were really on the same page about our future. Then things got weird. She was on her phone more, whispering during calls, acting jumpy if I walked into the room. Getting short with me over nothing, like asking what she wanted for dinner, would set her off. I figured maybe it was just stress from wedding planning. That stuff can be overwhelming. So I gave her space, thought I was doing the right thing. But looking back, I should have asked more questions. One day, I get this packet in the mail from a real estate agency, and it's got all this info about a house sale. My house. At first, I thought it was a scam, but the pictures? It was definitely my house. Same furniture and everything. Even had a proposed closing date. That night, I brought it up to Kelly. Asked her point blank if she knew anything about it. She went pale. Mumbled something about wanting to surprise me with a bigger house after the wedding. Said she was just exploring options. But none of it made sense. If we were moving, why wouldn't she tell me? And why would a real estate agency be involved without my name anywhere? Her story didn't sit right with me. So after she went to bed, I stayed up, started digging. Next day, I called the real estate agency, pretended to be her assistant, asked about the details of the sale. What they told me floored me. Kelly had listed my house for sale, without my knowledge, told them she was a co-owner, which was a complete lie. Even forged my signature on the documents. And the kicker? There was already a cash buyer lined up. The sale was set to close in 2 weeks. I asked why it was moving so fast, and that's when the agent mentioned something that made my stomach drop. They said Kelly told them she needed the money urgently to help with family obligations. That's when it all clicked. She was planning to sell my house to pay off her parents' mortgage. That night, I confronted her again. Showed her the paperwork. She broke down sobbing, barely got a word out, said she didn't know how else to save her parents, that I wouldn't understand. I stayed calm, not because I wasn't furious, but because if I let myself yell, I knew I'd lose it completely. I told her straight up, what she did wasn't just wrong, it was illegal. She forged documents, lied about being a co-owner, tried to sell something that wasn't hers. There was no coming back from that. And then, she flipped, went from crying to angry, told me I was selfish for not helping her parents when I had so much. That stung. Because the truth is, I don't have so much. I busted my butt for every bit of it. Nobody handed me this house. I skipped out on friends, on fun, on a lot of life, just to save and make this happen. And now, the woman I thought I'd spend forever with was trying to guilt me into giving it all away. When they were taking turns trying to force the door open, it felt like forever. But in reality, the cops showed up pretty quick. I was watching the live feed when 2 squad cars pulled up into my driveway, lights flashing. Kelly and her dad just froze. They tried to sweet-talk their way out of it, but the officers weren't buying a word. They were both detained on the spot. Later that day, I got home and gave my statement. Kelly tried claiming she was just there to grab a few things she'd forgotten, but I wasn't having it. She'd moved out weeks ago, down to the last sock. There was zero reason for her to be there, let alone with her dad and a crowbar. I pressed charges, trespassing, attempted burglary. I wasn't going to let this one slide. The officers took it seriously too, especially after I showed them the security footage. It was crystal clear what they were up to. They both got taken into custody, and I figured that'd be the end of it. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Couple days later, I get a phone call. It's Kelly. At first, I wasn't even going to answer. What could she possibly say at this point? But curiosity got the better of me. Soon as I picked up, she's crying. Tells me she's sorry, that she didn't know what else to do. Says she only broke in to grab a couple of sentimental things she forgot. I didn't believe a word of it. Then she drops the bomb. Says she's pregnant. I didn't even know what to say. I sat there quiet for a long moment, then asked why she was only telling me now. She said she'd been scared, didn't know how I'd react, claimed the stress of the breakup, and her family made her hold back. I'll admit, for a second, I wondered if it was true, but something about it didn't sit right. The timing was too convenient. So I told her, calm and straight, if she was really pregnant, I'd step up, I'd do the right thing, but I needed a doctor's confirmation and a paternity test. That's when she started backpedaling. Said she wasn't ready to involve doctors yet, that I just needed to trust her. Yeah, no. After everything she'd pulled, trust was long gone. I told her I wasn't playing games. If she wanted me involved, she had to prove her claims. Then I hung up. That was the last I heard about the pregnancy. No follow-up, no doctor's note, nothing. I can only assume it was another desperate attempt to manipulate me. Then, about a week later, I got a letter from a lawyer. Apparently, Kelly had hired someone to try and shake me down for money. The letter accused me of causing her emotional distress by ending the engagement and kicking her out. But it didn't stop there. It demanded compensation for the time she'd lived with me, saying she'd enhanced my life and deserved repayment. But here's the wildest part. It even demanded financial support for her parents. Said I benefited from their daughter and owed them something in return. I was floored. I showed the letter to my lawyer, who honestly looked like he was trying not to laugh. We drafted a response that shut the whole thing down hard. We laid out everything, from the attempted house fraud to the break-in, and made it real clear that if they kept pushing, I'd countersue for damages, legal fees, and defamation. We didn't sugarcoat a thing. Every word backed up with evidence. That must have done the trick, because I never heard from Kelly or her lawyer again. The legal nonsense fizzled out as fast as it started. I could finally breathe a little easier. Looking back, the break-in was probably the most surreal part of all this. I mean, who does that? I still don't know what was going through Kelly's head, or her dad's for that matter. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It felt like they were trying to take me down with them. I've upgraded my security since then. I'm way more careful now about who I let into my life. It's been a rough ride, but I'm starting to feel like myself again. There's still more to unpack from this mess, but I'll save that for the next post. Thanks for sticking with me. Honestly, writing all this out has helped more than I thought it was.